if I were the devil, and I promise you I'm not, but if I were the devil, here's how I would have gone about my devilish business to make people doubt the Lord of glory. If I was the devil, and I promise you the devil is way smarter and more clever than I am, if I was the devil, I wouldn't storm the gates of the church with horns and fire coming out of my nostrils. No, that would be too obvious. That would rally everyone against me. No. If I were the devil, I'd slip into thoughts like a whisper, like a gentle wind, subtly nudging a crafty lie here, planting a seed of doubt there. You see, lies work best when there's just enough truth to make them believable. That's what the famous Nazi propaganda minister Goebbels said. He says the best place to hide a lie is between two truths. So if I were the devil, I would dilute the truth with just half-truths. Not anti-truths, just half-truths. If I were the devil, I'd begin by convincing people that Jesus was a good man. Oh, we're not anti-Jesus. No, we love Jesus. He was great. He was moral. He was maybe even a prophet. After all, who could hate a man who says, love thy neighbor? But then, I'd slyly and slowly strip away from them the claims that Jesus made about himself. Have people give all their opinions about Jesus and have them forget what Jesus plainly said about himself. Before Abraham was, says Jesus, I am. I and the Father are one, says Jesus. You see, if I were the devil, I can make Jesus, going to try and make him just a mere man. Because if Jesus was just a mere man, then the cross, instead of being a triumph, becomes a tragedy. His resurrection, it's a myth. A myth instead of a miracle. And his throne, that's just a metaphor for something else. C.S. Lewis again reminds us that we must choose a path. He is a liar, he's a lunatic, or Jesus is Lord. But if I were the devil, I'd simply make people think that he was a nice guy. If I were the devil, I would sow seeds of skepticism. You see, skepticism is the bread and butter of the devil. If I were the devil, I'd make people ask, did God really say? Remember, where was the first time he asked that? The garden. And it's worked ever since. If I were the devil, I'd whisper into people's hearts, can a virgin really give birth? Did Jesus really walk on the water? Did he really rise from the dead? I'd make people forget that the God who created everything out of nothing can't do miracles. If I were the devil, I'd bring in the quote-unquote experts, the philosophers with thick glasses and thicker doubts, scholars who see contradictions where there are none, and authors who write a bunch of garbage like the Da Vinci Code and call it history. See, if I were the devil, I'd wrap my lies in intellectual respectability with letters before the names. But here's the devilish brilliance of all of them. While the people are busy debating how Jesus lived, they will have forgotten why he lived. You see, if I was the devil, I would divide and conquer with confusion. I'd unleash a storm of religions and sects and cults and new revelations. I'd have one group over here say, Jesus was a prophet and nothing more. And another group over here saying, Jesus was God, but he became God later. I'd have another group over there saying, there is no God, we are gods. And I'd whisper in the ears of men, why worship Jesus when you can worship your own desires? Why bow down to him when you can build your own throne? You see, confusion is the devil's weapon of choice. Oh, and how effective he wields it. Because a heart that is confused is a knee that will not bow. See, if I was the devil, I would make it trendy and hip to mock the truth. If I were the devil, I'd use humor as a weapon against God and His church. I'd turn Jesus into a punchline for jokes and His gospel into a meme. I'd fill people's screens with comedians mocking the virgin birth and influencers and self-proclaimed experts and conspiracy theorists who say things like, "You don't need Jesus or the church to be spiritual." I'd make it cool to doubt and cringeworthy to believe. I'd make faith look like the foolish option and skepticism like the enlightened option. And in their laughter, they would have forgotten what's at stake, their eternal souls.